welcome to Switch It on IT. This is the show where we talk about everything IT. Last time on the show we were talking about building websites and the components of good websites. We had Doug and Ray with us from the United States and Sydney again. We have both of them with us again today, and we'll see if they're with us now. Doug and Ray, are you there? Yes, they're with us now. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Barry.
Thanks, Barry.
My understanding is that you're going to talk about WordPress and some of the uses of WordPress this morning, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Without any further ado, we will hand this over to you now. So, Doug, take it away for us.
Good. Thanks, Barry, and thanks, Ray. So, Ray, WordPress websites, maybe we just sort of pull back a little bit from that and explain to our viewers that WordPress is a content management system with which you can build websites, but there's many other content management systems. In fact, tens of thousands of content management systems have been developed over the years. Ray, can you tell us a little bit about what other content management systems are out there and their prevalence, and what kind of platforms or servers or operating systems they need to run on?
Sure, Doug. So first and foremost, for folks who are running businesses and are interested in getting a website up and running, that's one of the first things that people think about. And one of the big decisions, as you're really alluding to here, Doug, is that people need to make a decision in terms of how they get that website created. And it can be sometimes a daunting task. And of course, WordPress is something that people talk about quite frequently. WordPress is the free open source software. Free as in freedom. That is, the rights associated with it are given to you freely to use, and you have the ability to see the code. And there are many other content management systems out there, as you talked about. There is Drupal and Joomla, Magento, and several other major platforms that are also free open source software. And there are some content management systems that are proprietary, ones that you cannot see the code, and other people run that software. And they all sort of exist in this ecosystem for you to be able to make a choice. And I think I come on the side of using WordPress most often than not. There are very few clients I meet with where I tell them that WordPress isn't a good platform for them. But there's just quite a bit of things that they need to think about before they go ahead and jump on the WordPress bandwagon. And we'll talk about some of those things today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm often asked by people looking for website hosting what sort of content management system they should use, and WordPress has certainly become a very dominant one, and I kind of liken it to if you've got a WordPress website, firstly, your ability to find somebody to help you with the maintenance and development of that website is probably a little bit easier than if you've got an obscure content management system. So it's a little bit like having that wonderful, rare, beautiful, technically excellent European sports car, but there just aren't too many mechanics you can take it to. Whereas if you get something very, very basic, your common or garden Toyota Corolla or Camry or something like that is the brands we would have in Australia, then there's loads of mechanics that will be able to work on them. And so you've got a WordPress website, you can, if your relationship with your current developer turns a little bit sour, you can always get somebody else to help you work on that WordPress website. Other websites, even things like Joomla that we just mentioned, the developer community is not nearly as large for those as it is for a CMS like WordPress. In terms of WordPress, and that's going to be the focus of the discussion today. Ray, a lot of people talk about e-commerce and having catalogs and people being able to buy products or services off the website. And you did mention Magento. Has WordPress got any capabilities like that as well for e-commerce?
Yeah, so the company that actually manages the open source project. They're called Automatic, and they're run by a gentleman called Matt Mullenberg. And that company itself, I think they're now 700 employees strong. WordPress itself just turned 15 years old, and so they now run 29 to 30% of all the websites in the world. And they have over time acquired or developed internally several different products that they sell in confluence with the WordPress product itself that they host. So very similar to Oz Hosting, they provide a hosting platform for it. But there's some restrictions on, of course, their platform versus someone who's hosting WordPress on yours. And so people have to kind of be aware of the restricted nature of WordPress.com versus a self-hosted WordPress installation. And once you have a self-hosted WordPress installation, you can then install a plugin they have called Woocommerce. And Woocommerce allows you to basically implement an e-commerce solution right there inside of your WordPress blog and or website.
Right. Okay. And so WooCommerce
is free.
Is complete. It's free. It's open source, and therefore can be is maintained by a vast array of volunteers who are continually rewriting code, I guess, and improving the feature set. Now, you mentioned some big numbers there in terms of the prevalence of WordPress. It's become quite a dominant content management system, and it's moved on a lot from its early days where it was purely a blogging content management system, if you like. But there's some downsides to being so popular. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so to talk about security of the platform, you really have to understand some of the fundamental parts of WordPress. WordPress itself, what we call WordPress Core, is the software that is installed out the gate without any of the other parts associated with it. And then some other things come along with it. So there are things called themes, there are things called plugins, and those extend the ability of WordPress for front-end design, those are the themes, and then to extend functionality, and those are the plugins. So when WordPress is installed, it comes with a basic theme, whatever the current theme is of the year, and that theme displays your website in a particular way, controls kind of the front end. The plugins extend the capabilities of WordPress, and each of those things is susceptible to hackers. So WordPress Core, the themes, as well as the plugins are all vectors, attack vectors, that hackers, because of the prevalence of WordPress, will go after in order to be able to insert malicious code and attempt to do all kinds of unfortunate things to websites, whether they be personal websites, personal blogs, or business-focused websites or blogs.
Absolutely. And we see a fair bit of that as well. And I think one of the interesting things is when somebody is developing a website, with the themes, there's a massive ecosystem of themes, isn't there? So you're able to, if you're in real estate, or you might have a medical practice, or you could have a yacht brokerage, whatever it is that you're doing, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of themes that theme developers have produced over time to make your particular industry sector have a beautiful way of presenting their business online. So I think that's one of the other great things about choosing WordPress as a content management system. You get that wonderful, rich variety of themes, and as you mentioned as well, with the technical capabilities of plugins, there's a real incentive for developers of plugins to make them for WordPress. And I think just on how that works, one of the things that maybe is not often understood is that WordPress is an open source content management system itself, so it's free, but the people that are developing themes and plugins, they're running a business. So they're creating their themes and generally putting them on the market, putting them in Theme Forest or one of the big websites that sells themes, and they're basically going to sell them to you. And they might cost you, $30 or $40 Australian, $50, $100, depending on the quality, the design characteristics. You can spend
support.
quite a bit of money on a thing, and the support. And I think that's one of the other aspects about that we touched on earlier. You mentioned you used the term attack vectors, and I think the way to look at that is that there's really quite a bit that a website owner or the developer that's working for a website owner needs to keep an eye on, because the desire for a bad actor to target WordPress websites is very high because they're so common. Then if you develop a piece of malware, a script that will do something that is, to your economic advantage to promote your Viagra tablets or whatever it might be, and you can use a website for spamming the world, with that intent. If you can find a vulnerability in WordPress websites, you've got a lot of websites that are going to be spamming the world for you and sending out your phishing attacks or whatever it might be. So what that means, I guess, is that it's a real continuous game of catch up, isn't it? So are there sort of differences that you're seeing in terms of different content management systems, themes and plugins in terms of the speed with which the developers of those different components are playing catch up? Is it solid, or is it something we need to be concerned about?
It's something you always need to be concerned about. I mean, currently today, the major problem with any content management system is that they're being attacked. We talked about this a few episodes ago about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, and that's what a lot of these malware writers are attempting to inject into WordPress and Joomla and Drupal and other websites. If they can get a cryptocurrency miner, typically for Monero, injected into your website, that means every time your website's loaded in anyone's browser, they're mining a little bit of Bitcoin, that is Monero cryptocurrency, for that criminal. So that's really the big issue right now, is that people are not attempting to really get access to your data so much today as getting access to the computing power of the people who visit your websites. And if they can infect thousands and thousands of websites through WordPress or some other content management system, they can make a lot of money. That's the economic incentive. So security is really important. And every WordPress installation needs a backup utility. You need to have the ability to have backups. You need to have a security plugin. And while WordPress is a pretty good search engine optimized blog engine out the gate, you should probably have some kind of SEO plugin. And there are 2 or 3 really most popular plugins for each of those categories: security, backup, and search engine optimization. And you have a pretty solid platform in which to either purchase or use free plugins, the ones that are free or premium plugins that you pay for updates and support, as well as themes, which you can get for free or pay for updates and support. So WordPress can be very cost efficient and also very flexible. We have a lot of changes coming down the pike with WordPress that we could talk about if we have some time, that are giving WordPress the extensibility of any other major cloud hosting platform. And the fact that it's free open source software gives you the flexibility to change WordPress any way you want to as a business. Your hands aren't shackled in that way. And as you said, there is a ripe ecosystem that supports WordPress. So, you don't need to worry about finding someone to be able to help you, because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people capable of helping you at any given time with those functions, those roles.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, that's a really interesting discussion, and I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of people out there that will be intrigued by the information you're giving them. We'll take a break now, so we'll go to the break, and after the break we'll come back and we'll talk more about WordPress and the ways that you can use WordPress for building your website. This is Switched on IT. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Is your computer driving you crazy? Is it slow or doing things you didn't expect? Well, having a computer crash or pick up a virus can be a complete nightmare for a business, so having someone local you can trust to get you up and running again is critical. The dedicated team of experts at Computer Troubleshooters Toowoomba West will put your mind at ease from the moment you walk through the door and will get your problem solved in no time with a 100% guarantee on their work. Laptops, tablets, PCs, whatever you have, Roger and the team can fix it for you. So visit them today at 236 Bridge Street, Newtown. Well, can't get in to see them? No worries. Just call them on 4642 1331 and they'll come to you. Toowoomba Troubleshooters, Toowoomba West, on the web at www.computertroubleshooters.com.au/Toowoomba West.
Looking for exposure for your business or event? Take your business, community event, training seminar, sports fixture, function, concert or exhibition to the world with Power TV Australia and Power FM's unique live outside simulcasts. We can turn your next local event into a worldwide sensation with stunning live pictures, interviews, graphics and live action replays for a fraction of the usual cost. From a festival or sports fixtures to a corporate or charity event, Power TV Australia and Power FM can take your message live to our local and national viewers and listeners. Invite the world to your party by contacting Barry today on 0431 390 920 or email programming@powertvaustralia.com for a quote.
Hi, this is Mick Jagger on
Classic Vinyl.
This is Debbie Harry from Blondie.
This is Jimmy Barnes here.
Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac.
This is Reverend Willie G from ZZ Top.
The best tracks from the greatest albums of our generation.
That's right.
From your breakfast and coffee to your drive home.
We've got the classic hits that make your workday.
When you got a job to do.
Go by a lot faster.
Hey, if we haven't said it lately, thanks for listening. The home of classic rock.
Don't touch the dial.
Power FM.
PowerFMRadio.com.au.
So Doug, in your environment, you probably have to deal with many of the issues that I'm talking about here in terms of security backup and managing many different WordPress installations. You probably interface with many of the developers who are having to do this. What's your experience, and what do you feel like are some of the best practices people have instituted and the tools they're using for that?
Sure. I think one of the common misconceptions with small business owners is often that they're not fully aware of all the things we were just talking about in terms of WordPress continually releasing content management security patches for WordPress, and small business owners just don't understand that they need to apply these security patches, or their website will be compromised. And the same thing goes for themes and plugins. So there's quite a bit of ignorance out there in that respect. And they also kind of look at the hosting provider and think, well, if I've got a website that's full of vulnerabilities from my themes, my plugins, somehow if I put that code on, XYZ hosting company servers, the problem goes away. Well, it doesn't go away. A website is a public-facing piece of content. It's presenting the content to the world, and if there are vulnerabilities in your online form or in your theme, then I'm sorry, but they're still going to be there. And so, one of the things that we're seeing with developers now is that they're looking for ways in which they can efficiently manage the continuous WordPress security patches that are being developed, and also making sure, as the developers of themes and plugins create security patches and upgrades to their services, to their particular themes and plugins that they're using, that they're easy to apply. So one of the great things that has changed in the last, really quite recently, the last 12 months, is that one of the providers of control panels for managing multiple websites is a company called Plesk. And Plesk have worked long and hard with the people at WordPress and with the people at Joomla as well to deal with a lot of the cumbersome, gnarly issues that developers have. So what Plesk have done is they've developed what is called a WordPress toolkit. And if you have a server and you're hosting 15 or 20 websites, they might be your own, you might have multiple businesses, or you might be a web developer. What the WordPress toolkit will do is present all your websites in a table in the control panel, and it will provide you with key information. So you'll be able to see row by row, I've got website A, what version of the WordPress content management system am I currently using? Is there a more recent version available? And it will give you a one-click update button so that you can apply the latest WordPress CMS update. The same goes for the theme. It will tell you whether there is a more recent version of that theme that has been released. And then again with the plugins, and you can open up a little table showing you all the plugins, because typically people might have 10 or 15 plugins that they're using on a website. Often they don't even know that they're there. But this service will tell you whether those plugins are active, which ones are active, whether they've got security patches released for them. And again, you've got a one-click option to apply that. And you can actually also select to apply all the plugin updates, the theme updates, and the CMS updates as one process, because you've got a rollback capability. So if anything happens to the website, if there is any incompatibility with a security patch, then you can roll back, and maybe you might find that one plugin hasn't been kept up to date with the latest WordPress developer, and you might decide to either disable that plugin until the update is released for it, or continue to work with it knowing that you've got a vulnerability, but go back to the plugin developer and say, hey, I'm trying to keep my website secure and I'm using your plugin and I'm paying you for it. Maybe you can, you can release a security patch for it. So when you think of somebody who might have multiple websites, 15 or 20 websites, and you've got to keep the WordPress instance up to date, the theme up to date, and the plugins up to date, you can, if you were to do all that manually, you could have 3 or 4 hours of work per website to manually execute those processes. And with this toolkit, you could probably do it in a couple of hours, do 15 or 20 websites in a couple of hours, or even automate it and work it on an exception basis if something bad happens because of an incompatibility. So, that certainly makes life a lot easier. We are recommending Plesk because of that reason. And there is one other key feature that makes managing your WordPress website a lot easier with the toolkit. And that is what is called a clone and sync capability. So a lot of times when somebody is making a major change to their website, they might do it themselves, and they might have a website developer do it. What they'll do is they'll create a staging environment. So they'll create a subdomain, something like staging or testing, .mydomain.com.au, and in this toolkit, in this control panel, there is a clone option. So you can create your subdomain and then just with one click, copy it to the staging environment and see it online in that staging environment. And then you can do all your work keeping your production website, your main one, your primary one, completely as is. And then you make all your changes on the staging environment. Your client or your senior management team can sign off on the changes that you're making. And then when you've got all that done, and this is where the kicker is, you can actually sync it back to the production environment, to the production space. Now, previously when developers did that, when they put it on the staging environment, they changed the URL for each page of the website. And then they had to manually change it back to what it used to be. A very, very arduous and time-consuming process, particularly if you've got a number of websites on the go and you're executing this process. So with this sync process, what it does is it strips out the subdomain that you were using and just copies it back onto the production instance, and your website just goes live instantly completely in the new signed off by senior management format. So I think these sorts of tools that the developers of control panels are introducing to help make managing websites easier, they're now working, I think, a lot more effectively and efficiently with the content management system developers and taking on things that probably don't really fall on the shoulders of the content management system developers such as WordPress and Joomla all that easily. So, we're seeing some great improvements in this space at the moment. I've got no doubt that other content, control panel developers will be offering similar features, but at the moment we're looking at Plesk and we're finding that it's providing a massive time saving and efficiency dividend to developers.
Yeah, and I would say that for those who are small business owners and you maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 websites, there is a plugin called Manage WP for Managed WordPress. And Manage WP is a plugin that's free, and you install it and it allows you to do what Doug is talking about in terms of being able to update multiple plugins and multiple themes at once, all inside of one WordPress installation. So you may have multiple installations, but you basically credential into each of them, and then you can manage all of your other WordPress websites all from the one login. So you log into one WordPress site, and then you manage all the others from that one particular place, and it helps manage. Like I said, if you're just trying to get theme updates and plugin updates done regularly, that's a really great way to go about it. If you cannot access Plesk, I mean, Plesk isn't available on every hosting environment, and you could do it directly from within WordPress, which is even better. And so there are definitely benefits to something like Plesk on large scale situations. And I don't know how much you experience this, Doug, but many of our clients who want to develop multiple websites, one thing that's built into WordPress Core is something called multi-site, so that you can actually develop multiple WordPress installations all inside of one WordPress installation. And that allows you to have subsites, like a site1.yourwebsite.com, site2.yourwebsite.com, and so on and so forth, all inside of the same WordPress installation. And that makes it really flexible for being able to manage content and theme development and all that other stuff in one installation.
Yeah, we've got a franchise operation in Australia that's using multi-site with us. So yeah, they're trying to get the best of both worlds. So they put it on a virtual private server with the Plesk control panel, and then using multi-site so that they can just roll out updates to all their franchisees' individual websites just in one pass, and it's making life very efficient for them.
Yeah, that's
I think
perfect.
there's one thing that I was just going to add there that we didn't mention in all this, and that is for the business owner, making sure that they also have a proper backup option. And one of the things that we see quite a lot of is that obviously in the content management systems, in most of them, you do have an option to create a backup. And even if you've got a server like a Linux server hosting multiple websites, and even if you're using the WordPress toolkit, you can back up and set backup schedules. But what I would recommend that everybody thinks about is having a backup that is not part of your server or existing hosting platform. In other words, have it in a separate place, in a separate data center, so that the two are completely separated. They're what they call geo-redundant. And we do recommend that to all of our customers, and we're offering them a service that it basically sells them backup by the amount of storage space they need, and it is incredibly inexpensive. So, for example, I think it's as little as $3 a month. They can get 5 gigabytes of backup space, and the control panel interface they get is extremely neat, because it allows them to create 30 versions of their website and their website database files. And the reason that that's important is that if your website is ever compromised by one of these bad guys, their intent is for you not to notice that your website has been compromised, because they want to continue their use of your website for phishing exercises for as long as possible. So in that situation, if you need to go back, if you need to revert to an earlier version of your website, if you've got a nightly backup, and obviously, any website hosting company will do a nightly backup of all the websites on their platform. Number one, the nightly backup is probably of no use to you. You might need to go back 3 or 4 weeks or even longer to get, the right version of your website from which to rebuild it. And the second aspect of it is that you need to make sure that you can access it at any time. And one of the issues that we bump into is where we have business owners approach us and they say, my website's over at XYZ. They're offline. There is an issue, or there's an issue with my web developer, and maybe he didn't pay his bill, and the website's gone down. They've got nothing, and they can't get anything from anywhere in those sorts of circumstances. So I'd say $3 a month is a really small amount of insurance, and in fact, for a standard WordPress, what we call a brochureware website, just with 20 or 30 2 meg pages, I mean, you can do the sums there, and you can realise that $3 a month might be enough for 50 or 60 small brochureware websites to have 30 versions of their website hosted in a completely separate state and have a one-click recovery process. So I'd certainly recommend to everybody that they think about having some kind of a bit of insurance like that, because when you need it, well, you really need it. I don't know if you've seen anything similar to that, Ray.
Every week I have clients who call panicked, you know what I mean? And it's because of these lack of systems in place to be able to have secure backups, offsite backups, or as you said, geo-redundant backups, and making sure they're following the protocols, that are set up for them, and we've tried to make it as easy as possible for our own clients who set up, hosting with us. But when they go outside of that, different hosting companies have different protocols for helping their customers, and then they run into trouble. So yeah, every week.
Well, gentlemen, that's been a really interesting discussion. I think that we'll leave it there for today. I'm being given the wind it up signal. So we'll leave it there. Are there any final things that either of you would like to add to the discussion before we go?
Not from me, Barry. I think that's good coverage of WordPress.
Okay. Ray, anything that you want to add before we leave?
No, I think WordPress is a fantastic platform. Just follow the guidelines that we talked about in this episode, making sure that you have a solid, security theme backup, and that you're paying attention to themes and plugins and the core backups. Make sure that you're updating. Some hosting providers even provide automated updates for those things, so that just in case something does update and you don't notice it, it'll do it for you. But if there's a problem, it'll make sure it doesn't install that update until you've looked at it, or it says we'll only do minor versions or only do major versions, so that you have control over it, even though some of these security patches are being taken care of. But it's a robust platform, and I recommend it to almost every business I talk to.
Terrific. Okay, now, Doug, you're at Oz Hosting in Sydney. You're providing hosting for small businesses and large businesses as well. Just tell us again how someone can contact you if they want to test the Plesk site and see how that works with their WordPress sites.
Sure, Barry, thanks. People can contact us on the website, ozhosting.com.au, and on there we've got our phone numbers, email addresses, and we also have online chat there. So a lot of people jump onto online chat and ask a few questions and check it out, test us out. And we do have a lot of developers working with us at the moment on hosting multiple WordPress websites. And we're always happy to demo any of our services to make sure that everyone is comfortable and can understand just how easy it is to manage them through our system.
Terrific. All right, those details have been on the screen there. So if you have a website and you want to host it with a company that can give you all kinds of really great tools to work with, go to the Oz Hosting website, have a chat with them and see what they can do for you. Ray, If somebody wants to engage somebody who's an expert in social media, how do they contact you?
They can find us at W3 Consulting on Twitter. Just go ahead and go to W3 Consulting on Twitter. You can also go to our website, w3cinc.com, and you can contact us right there on that page.
Terrific. That's great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We will look forward to seeing you again next week. This has been Barry for Switched on IT on Power TV Australia. We'll see you again next week.